Hello ladies and gentlemen, hi guys and girls. Today I have a very special video for you. It's a 3x3x2 modification that I built for IceCuber. So IceCuber approached me and said, hey, I would like to try out one of your puzzles. And then we discussed a bit further and came to the conclusion that I would build a puzzle for her and she would review it. So the 3x3x2 is the base puzzle that we decided on. So it's not too big of a modification and won't take too much time. But as you know me, I overdo things all the time. So it turned out to be a pretty significant modification with lots of steps. So this video is going to be a little bit longer. Also, I haven't decided on a name for the puzzle. So I thought that the cubing community or IceCuber's community should decide on a name and get a 1x1x3 pyro blade as a gift, let's say, for giving us the best name. I would say it's something like a 3x3x2 axis container, something like that. So it's some kind of axis shape mod, but the puzzle has different edge length on every side. So yeah, I guess that's basically all I have to say. Let's not wait any longer and jump into the build video. Alright, so here you can see the 3x3x2, the base puzzle that I used. And I already removed some of the stickers to better show you where I want to remove material. So on two opposite corners we would have to make them triangular, and on two opposite corner pairs we would just have to cut half of them off. I took some masking tape and put it around the puzzle. I like to do that instead of glue, so that the puzzle can't move anymore and I can sand freely without having to worry about pieces falling out or the puzzle turning slightly. So I took the puzzle over to the disc sander and started sanding down the corner pairs first. So here is the corner pair sanded down. Then I would have to do it to the other one too. And I noticed if I rock the puzzle back and forth a tiny bit, I can sand for longer without having melted plastic just sticking on the sandpaper. Then I had to remove all of the melted plastic from the inside of the pieces. I do that so that I don't get any air bubbles or stuff like that when filling. Then I moved on to the two opposite corner pieces and just removed as much material as I had to, so that the corner would be triangular. And I had to clean up the pieces as well, so I just took my X-Acto knife and scraped out the inside of the pieces so that I could fill it with epoxy sculpt. Then it was time to remove the stickers. I had just left them on so I can better show what material to remove. After the stickers were gone, the residue was still on the puzzle. I just rubbed it off with my finger and then took a nail file and sanded down all of the surfaces of the puzzle. Because when the shape modification is done, not a single piece will remain original, so every single piece will be modified. That's why I sanded down everything. Then for the filling of the pieces, I just scraped the inside of the pieces a little bit so that the epoxy sculpt would stick better. I then took about 25 grams of each part of epoxy sculpt. That's a modeling clay that hardens after a couple of hours. So I mixed everything up really properly and then started to fill the holes in the pieces. I always make sure to not get any air bubbles in it, so I press the material down a lot and go step by step. I usually don't fill one piece with one piece of epoxy sculpt. So then I did that for all of the pieces of the puzzle. And I think the result was pretty clean looking. I was really satisfied with that. So now comes the extending part. I scraped down the corner pieces where I knew that I would have to extend them. Then I loosened the puzzle and just removed those corner pieces. I then built up some epoxy sculpt on these corners to get them into their final shape. And when you extend some pieces, the back sides of the pieces, so where the mechanism touches, they will always guide you where you have to extend. So I will extend until the surface that I created and the two back surfaces of the piece touch each other. So I did that for all of the 6 corners that we sanded down, because I knew I had to extend them in a specific way. These are the corners here, and maybe you can see that I just extended the back sides out until the pieces would meet. So this is a bit confusing now, so I glued on 6 corner and edge pieces onto the puzzle. I decided to extend the pieces like that and not use all epoxy sculpt, because it would just give me, well, a cleaner extension. I then took this weird looking puzzle over to the disc sander and sanded down the pieces in a specific way so that I would get a flat surface and a 6-sided puzzle again. Here you can see 3 of the sides being sanded already. And the puzzle started to get into shape a bit. So then I extended it further with more cubies. I just glued them on to the pieces. And I just made sure that I don't accidentally twist it a little bit, because it's just way more work if the cube is twisted and you have to extend material or build up material there. So now it was time to remove the pieces that were sticking out. I used my disc sander again for this, and it's important that you sand in the correct direction, because the pieces can fly out otherwise. And as you can see, I rocked the puzzle back and forth just a tiny bit again to remove the material a little bit better. Alright, so I would say the puzzle is 50% done now. And it seems like I finally figured out what kind of shape this is. I looked at this one layer here, this layer, and it reminded me a lot of the IceCuber. So I think this is going to be an axis prism or axis cuboid. So if you look like this side is longer than these two. So if I was to cut down these a little bit more, I would get an axis cube out of a 3x3x2. But we don't want to make an axis cube, we want to make an original mod. So I decided to keep the shape as it is and just continue extending the pieces. So I took some more epoxy sculpt and stuffed it into the open pieces. And then let it harden overnight. So this is what the puzzle looked like. I was pretty satisfied. You can already see the shape that it's going to have, but I still had to glue on more 3x3 pieces onto it to extend it even further. I took corner pieces to extend on the centers and edge pieces to extend on the corners, just so that I wouldn't have a half a cubie in the middle of the puzzle, basically. So here is half of the puzzle. You can see one of the corners looks pretty nice already. And then I was left with some weird looking pieces, because some cubies were extended, some epoxy sculpt was on there. So I just scraped all of the surfaces again and then just filled it up with epoxy sculpt. For sanding the back sides of the pieces, I sometimes use this electric belt sander, a mini belt sander. I just use it to remove the bulk, and I finish the pieces with my metal ruler and 80 grit sandpaper always. The 80 grit is perfect for the mechanism parts because it's not too rough, but it's rough enough that you remove enough material. So here we have the assembled puzzle again. Still on the outside it looks a bit rough, but it does turn already. So I went over to the disc sander again and tried to get it into the perfect geometric form. Some sides were a little bit off, and I just tried to even everything out with sanding and turning it all the time on the disc sander. Then it was time to clean up some of the pieces. So I took my Dremel and just started sanding some of the holes where air bubbles have been. so that I could fill it up with epoxy sculpt later. And so after that, it was time to fill up all of the ridges between the pieces. That's the small detail that's a bit annoying if you use cubies to extend. But I think I did a pretty good job. It was just a lot of work. So I just took small strings of epoxy sculpt and put them into the ridges of the pieces. Once this was done, I had to round off the internal parts of the puzzle. So I just took a nail file and rounded them off as good as I could, following along the roundness of the original piece. On the right there is an original corner, on the left there is the sanded down version. And here is half of the puzzle rounded off. So once this was done, the puzzle could be turned perfectly. The turning would not improve anymore, except for lubing it and cleaning it. So now it was time to finish up the outsides and get everything perfect. So I went over with my disc sander once again, and then I went over with the nail file, just to make the surfaces a little bit smoother. And once this was done, I rounded off all of the outside parts of the pieces. On the right there's the rounded off version, on the left the original one. So once I was done with this step, it was time to clean all of the pieces and put them into this cardboard box so I can spray paint them. Spray painting takes a lot of time actually, because I have to spray paint from every side. So this took about 4 to 5 hours. And I didn't have the possibility to go to the office and make a CAD template. So I just took a piece of paper and a pen, a graphite pen, and scraped it over the piece of paper so that I would trace all of the edges onto the piece of paper. Then I glued it onto the back of the sticker sheet and cut out all of the stickers. And as you can see, I rounded off all of the corners as well, so that the stickers don't peel after the first solve. Then it was just time to apply all of them, and I did every single sticker this way. So this took about 3.5 hours for the whole puzzle. But I think it was totally worth it because it looks amazing. I went with a blue and grey white color scheme, so there are 2 grey shades and white and then 3 shades of blue. I think the blue is not perfect, but these were the only 3 blue sticker sheets that I had, and in the end I think it looks totally fine. So then a big thank you to Andy Puzzles, to Dario, because he provided me with this IceCuber logo. He cut it out from black vinyl with his vinyl cutter, and then the puzzle was finally done. So thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and if you haven't watched IceCuber's video already, get over to the channel. I linked the video in my description, and see a solve of the video and a great showcase, because I usually don't do these. So thank you very much, I hope you enjoyed, and see you around for the next time.